What is going on, everyone? My name's Andy. Welcome to another FPL video, and today we're having a quick look at double game week update and blank game week update as well. The FA Cup matches have literally just finished. I've just been watching Man United versus Chelsea. Great result for Man United. Chelsea now out of the FA Cup, so we know which teams are going to blank in game week 31, and also which ones are likely or could blank in 33. And obviously that gives us an idea of double game weeks and potential strategies. So this is going to be kind of an update video, plus a few things to start considering. So let's just jump straight into it. So as I mentioned, because of the FA Cup results this weekend, we now know who's going to blank in game week 31. There shouldn't be any other space that they can put these matches in within game week 31, so they should be moved. We think they'll probably be to game week 32. If you follow people like Ben Crellin on Twitter, they're pretty sure that game week 31 fixtures will fall into 32, and game week 33 fixtures will fall into 35. Although when it comes to double game weeks, it is worth saying that nothing's been confirmed yet. We won't know probably until much closer to the time. And I remember last season, we thought it was going to work like that, and actually they kind of got flipped around. So ones we thought were going to be in the later double game week got moved to the earlier one, and so on. I don't know if that will happen this week or this season, but it's definitely worth noting. But yeah, game week 31. So the games that are on, obviously we already knew some of these, but West Ham versus Huddersfield, Bournemouth versus Newcastle, Burnley versus Leicester, Fulham versus Liverpool, and now Everton versus Chelsea, because Chelsea were knocked out of the FA Cup. So that's a few good players there to choose from. I mean, a lot of people obviously already on triple Liverpool. Now suddenly Chelsea assets might become viable again, like Hazard, Higuain, Alonso maybe, David Luiz, whoever it might be. Obviously they're in a bit of a rough patch right now, but when it gets closer to 31, if they can find some form, there's obviously players there to pick from. Bournemouth fixtures get a bit better soon. Obviously West Ham have got the likes of Arnautovic and Felipe Anderson, so there are some good players to pick from. Obviously you don't want to fully load your team necessarily on game week 31, because there are other game weeks to consider between now and then, obviously after then as well. But they're the kind of players you want to be looking at for game week 31 to fill out your team if you're trying to get 11 players. And obviously the games that are off, you've got Brighton versus Cardiff, Man United versus Man City, Spurs versus Palace, Watford versus Southampton, and Wolves versus Arsenal. Some very big teams there that are going to miss out in game week 31. So after the final game was finished, they also made the draw for the quarterfinals. So we know they're going to be Swansea versus Man City, Watford versus Palace, Wolves versus Man United, and Millwall versus Brighton. So obviously any team from the Premier League that's playing in those fixtures, if they win, then their fixture in game week 33 will be a blank. Now, because of the way it's fallen, Wolves versus Man United, they both play each other in game week 33. So no matter what the result is of that, in the FA Cup quarter-final, that game will be off. So we've already got one confirmed blank, which is Wolves versus Man United. And we also know, because Watford are playing Palace, that one of their games will be called off. Obviously, we don't know which one, because we don't know who's going to win that match. But it means either Watford versus Fulham or Newcastle versus Palace will be off. So that's already two blanks in game week 33. And if you're a betting man or woman, you would probably look at Swansea versus Man City and probably decide that Man City will pretty much win that. Obviously, the way they've been playing this season, we know what they can do to teams. So you'd expect Man City to win that. Obviously, not guaranteed, but if that happens, then Man City versus Cardiff will be called off. So we're already up to 3 blanks then. Now, Millwall versus Brighton is probably a bit of a tough one for the Premier League side there to win. But it would mean, if they can get a win there, that Spurs would be off as well. So again, some big teams going to miss out in game week 33. Definitely Wolves versus Man United. Then one of Watford and Newcastle will miss out. Probably Man City, because you'd expect them to win. And then Spurs potentially missing out if Brighton can win as well. So a few blanks there potentially, and could be a bit of chaos there depending on how your team's set up. So this video is mainly supposed to be like a kind of update video on the double game weeks and blanks, but I do want to talk about a few things that you need to consider. I've titled this part free hit, but obviously there are other things to consider. But I know a lot of people are talking about the free hit chip in game week 31 versus the free hit chip in game week 32. But obviously, it's almost impossible to make a whole video on every single different strategy you could use, because not only do people not have the same chips, they don't have the same teams, they might want to play differently, possibly a bit safer, a little bit riskier. So I dread to think how long that video will be. So we'll just go for a few things. Obviously, one of them is, what does your team look like now? We've just gone through the players that are going to blank, and obviously most of those teams that are going to play in the blanks in game week 31 and 33. It also means they're not going to have a double game week, apart from Chelsea, because they didn't have their fixture rearranged yet from the blank in game week 27. Obviously, Man City did. That's why we had the double game week in 25. but Chelsea still have theirs to rearrange. So Chelsea will get a double game week at some point. Not sure exactly when that will be, but obviously teams like Liverpool and Bournemouth and West Ham, they're not blanking. So obviously, if you've got them in your team, then great. You're going to be set up a bit better for 31 and 33. But it does mean you'll find it a bit tricky around the double game week. So you're going to have to plan really far ahead of kind of what transfers you want to make, whether you're bringing in a double game week player or a player that can cover you in the blanks. Obviously, the beauty with the double game weeks is you'd hope that the player plays twice. Obviously, in a blank, they can only play once. And so potentially more returns in a double game week, but that obviously relies on the player playing twice and not just once. So for me personally, the way I'll probably look at doing my team is, yes, I want to try and get out as close to 11 as I can in a blank game week, but I'll probably look at filling that in the edges with the cheaper players that I can kind of bench in other game weeks before I look to unload my chips for the doubles. Obviously, knowledge for maxing the double game week potential, so that's kind of related to free hit chips. So those that are looking at using it in game week 31, so for the blank, you can max out with 11 players that are going to play, which is great. But obviously, then you're trying to build your team for that wild card in game week. For that double game week in game week 32. Whereas those that free hit in game week 32 will have as much knowledge as possible to build that team for that double. Obviously, it's great building it now, having players like from Man United and teams like that you hope or you expect now that you will want in game week 32. But obviously, anything can happen between now and then. Injuries, players getting rested, rotated, maybe, I don't know, someone suddenly out of form and gets replaced. And obviously, you've got a good idea. If you go for Man United players, you know that Pogba and Rashford are going to be top of that list. But if you save your free hit for game week 32, then you have as much, like I say, as much knowledge as you can, because it'll be up to the last minute. And you can start maybe building your team for the blanks instead. And that's kind of what I'm talking about there. You either build for the blank game weeks or the double game weeks, depending on kind of what chips you got. The one thing to say, though, is a few people have pointed out, obviously, it's all well and good going for the free hit in game week 32 because it's going to give you, hopefully, 11 double game week players. But if that means you're missing out on fielding a full 11 for game week 31, then obviously you've lost potential gains there. So, for example, if you only have 8 players in game week 31, then you're missing 3. Then technically 3 of those extra games in the double game week almost don't count, if that makes sense. So you're kind of making gains in one but losing it in another. Now, personally, I'll probably look to attack the double game week because I'm not quite convinced about the blank game week fixtures. Everyone's going to have 3 Liverpool anyway, or be looking to build towards that. Chelsea maybe make it a bit more kind of viable or advantageous to use the blank in game week 31. But again, they're really out of form right now. What's going to happen in 4 game weeks? I don't know. And obviously, like I said about getting the maximum possible info for game week 32, it does work for game week 31 as well. If you start bringing in the likes of Hazard, Alonso, Higuain now, hoping that in game week 31 they'll turn it all around, well, potentially they'll still be out of form as well. So it does work both ways. But for me, I'll probably look to attack double game week 32 instead. And one key thing worth noting is the likes of Leicester, Newcastle, Huddersfield and Bournemouth. Like I said, you can maybe get in the cheaper players to kind of build around the edges on your bench and stuff. With Leicester, you've got the likes of Vardy, Pereira, maybe even Maddison. Harvey Barnes is a bit of a punt, who you might want to just bring into your squad and play anyway. But basically, if you go and check their fixtures, all 4 of those teams have got really nice fixtures kind of from now until I think it's about game week 33, 34. On and off. Bournemouth, they get good pretty soon around the blanks. The rest of them are pretty good from now until kind of 33, 34. Not perfect fixtures, but very, very good. So they could be players that you'd be looking to bring in anyway from those teams. And obviously that softens the blow when you get to game week 31. But obviously if you're concentrating on getting players from those teams, then you're not getting them from the likes of Man City, who have 3 really good fixtures after the blank. So there's lots to consider. You need to, like I said, look at your squad, kind of. I know people don't necessarily want to get out spreadsheets and documents and stuff like that. If you can note down how many players you're kind of playing in game week 31, how many are going to blank, and just basically build from there, work kind of backwards almost of how many you're going to need, how many you want, and then how many you can get in for the double game week. And yeah, like I said, if I go for the free hit in 32, then I'm probably going to start looking at my team thinking, well, I've only got 3 or 4 players that are going to play in the blank game weeks. So I'm going to have to start bringing them in. But like I say, that means I could possibly miss out on big points elsewhere when those teams are playing outside of the blank. So what I mean by that is, obviously, I've only got 1 Man City player. So I'm not really going to be able to probably bring in another one because I'm going to be blank planning, so I'm potentially missing out on some big points. So it really is, I wish I had the answer, like the 100% answer on how to balance this. Because another thing with my team, for example, speaking from personal experience, is I don't really have any players I want to take out, which makes it very hard to bring in blank players. But obviously, at some point, I have to make a transfer, so I'm going to have to take out some bad players. Man United, for example, they're going to blank in 31 and 33, and they've got Arsenal, I think, in game week 30. So the fixtures aren't great. So maybe I look at taking them out, but they could punish me because they're in such good form. So for me, the way I'll probably look at doing it is I'll bring in blank game week players with kind of extra transfers, but I'll really be trying to hold 2 free transfers for as many weeks as I can over the next kind of 3 or 4, just so I'm not making any rash decisions. And I obviously want to bring in the players closer to the game week to make sure, again, like I spoke about earlier, the full knowledge, or as much knowledge as you can. The more players I bring in now, the bigger chances are that something could happen before game week 31 and 32. And something else I saw actually just over on Fantasy Football Scout, someone posted just before I come on to make this video, was about wildcarding in game week 32, free hit in 33, and basically what term has been coined as dead end your team. I think the guys who got the assist come up with that saying, but basically dead ending your team would be using all your transfers from now to 31 to make sure you've got a really good game week 31 team, not worrying about the fixtures after that, because you then wildcard in game week 32, you set yourself up for that double game week and the double game week in game week 35 with your wild card. And obviously you don't worry about the blank in game week 33 because you use your free hit. Now the only issue with that tactic is, again, trying to get all the knowledge. You're using your wild card in game week 32 and hoping that double game week team is still really good by 35. The beauty of using a free hit in 32 and then wild carding in 34 before the double game week is you get 2 brand new double game week teams. Now, no one really knows which is going to work out best. Last season, again, personal experience, I tried building a team in the early double game week with a wild card and then kept that team for later on. And to be honest, it would have been nicer to have 2 different teams. There was a few transfers I had to make. Players weren't performing. I had to keep them because they had a double game week and stuff. So I kind of wish I'd gone for the free hit and wild card strategy. But obviously that's using 2 chips and also having to cover the blanks in 31 and 33. So there's loads of different ways you can play this. Honestly, organisation at this end of this time of the season is key. You need to be fully aware of who you've got, who you want to bring in, and just go from there. Obviously, there'll be plenty more videos and stuff about which players are looking good in particular. And there'll be a stream on Wednesday which will talk more about strategy and stuff. But this video more just like kind of an update and some things to start thinking about. I've still not got mine set in stone. The wildcard 32 is an interesting choice, but it probably does mean fully going for game week 31 and missing out on a lot of points in between. So I'm still not quite sure. Let me know in the comments below what strategy you're thinking of doing. Are there any more questions? Is there stuff that needs to be covered in future videos and streams? I'm sure there is plenty of questions that you've got. Give a thumbs up on the video if you've enjoyed it. Thumbs up if you're looking forward to the blank and double game weeks. It's always a fun time of the season. And obviously subscribe if you're new around here. There will be a stream on Wednesday. Like I say, it'll be 9 or 9:30 PM UK time. And I'll have my usual preview video out as well towards the end of the week. Until then, thanks for watching. Hopefully this was useful. I will catch you later. Cheers all.